One of the things that Studio Tenn started with was this idea and this sort of course of taking innovative interpretations of classic musicals and plays. It allows enough familiarity with enough new. And that is something we try and do each time. And Frankenstein seemed like the perfect piece for such an interpretation. I'm Matt Logan. I'm the artistic director of Studio Tenn and the director and designer of Frankenstein. I talk about turning the prism a lot at Studio Tenn, and I really feel like a tale such as this deserves that. So when I was in rehearsal with Pete for Battle of Franklin, we were exploring options and just throwing out some titles. And finally I said, well, I just saw a production of Frankenstein, and I think there's more to mine in that. And he looked at me and went, I would love the opportunity to participate on that.
Studio Tenn has been fantastic in allowing me to come with a script that, I think is done, and then workshop that with the actors, with Matt Logan, the director, and through that process realize how very undone it was, and then I can go home and I can make it better. And so over the past few months, we've had this great relationship of iron sharpening iron, and slowly being able to whittle the play down to what it really needs to be. I'm Pete Peterson, and I'm the writer of Studio Tenn's adaptation of Frankenstein. The story that most people know is that Mary Shelley and Lord Byron and Percy Shelley were kind of on a weekend retreat somewhere, and there was bad weather, so they couldn't go out hiking, and they all just said, hey, let's write ghost stories. And so everybody went off by themselves and wrote their own ghost stories, and the one that we remember is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
I really find as a company, we seek to elevate literature, never to replace it, but we inspire someone to pick it up and hear firsthand from Mary Shelley where it all began.
One of the things I really wanted to keep, and I thought was necessary, was the kind of way the book is bookended with this scene on a ship. For those who have read the novel, it starts on a ship, and the whole thing is told to the captain of the ship by Victor Frankenstein. It's his kind of cautionary tale to this other explorer. Victor is passing this on, and the monster, to the captain, who is kind of representative of the audience.
Well, I thought the most interesting thing about this piece, as opposed to any time I've ever read it or seen it, was how eloquent the monster is and the heightened language. And you get this insight of what it's like to have first impressions of the world, but articulated. And I thought that was really interesting, a really interesting approach. My name is Yuri Maslany. I'm playing the monster in Studio Tenn's Frankenstein. The monster comes in with a blank slate and then receives absolutely no love from anybody because of how he looks outside. So eventually, his inside reflects the outside. He mourns that. He mourns that I wanted to be good. I wanted to believe the best, but nobody gave me that chance.
I love the line, I was born benevolent and good, and misery made me a fiend. Where could love have been, and how would that have changed the course of the story? If the monster had been given enough love, would he have turned out differently? And so I think it invites the audience to find where they think it could have gone differently.
My name is Morgan Davis, and I am playing Elizabeth Lavenza in Studio Tenn's Frankenstein. She came to the Frankenstein household when she was very young, and so Victor and Elizabeth grew up together. They were very much equals in studying in Victor's laboratory, and they grow up and fall in love.
I kind of think of the character of Elizabeth, who is almost a non-character in the book. She's just kind of there as a prop. I decided I wanted to think about her as Mary Shelley. So in my adaptation, Elizabeth is a woman who dreams of being educated, who dreams of being a writer, who is every bit as intelligent and curious and scientific as Victor is. So I saw them as partners in what's going on, and it's kind of my homage to Shelley as a way of putting her into her own story.
I think all of us have a deep need to feel understood, a deep need to feel valued, and that our contributions in society are worth something. And I think Victor just takes that to the next level. He's a person living with a lot of loss in his life, and I believe it's an attempt to buy back that loss. My name is Reinfeldt, and I'm playing Victor Frankenstein in Studio Tenn's Frankenstein. Victor, in the beginning of the show, sees himself as a creator. And so he creates this being that he feels he will have control over, and then instantly loses control over something he's created. And so that relationship grows and changes because he finds he's created more of an equal than something he can shape, which is terrifying.
There's something compelling to me with this story when you see the creator and the creation looking at each other through very similar eyes, very similar physique, and it starts to add those questions of nature, nurture. I think the big question I hope the audience wrestles with at each angle is, who is the monster?
I think Dr. Frankenstein has a very complicated relationship with the monster that changes over time. I think it's a lot like I would imagine having a child, because you make something and that you hope would be your best gift to the world. And I think Victor finds a relationship with this fully grown human being that's not what he's intended.
I think it's one of the most complicated relationships I've ever, and probably will ever have to play. Because the one person that he needs the most answers from, and he needs the most validation from, and the most acceptance from, is the one that keeps denying him at every turn. And he goes from like needing to understand to needing to punish, which is such a human instinct. Saying, if I can't survive with your love, I will survive with your peril.
I love the moment when she sees the monster, because we've been watching the monster through Victor's eyes for the duration of the play, and we're confused as to why he hates it so much and why he has this dark mentality surrounding the monster. And so when Elizabeth steps in, I think it's a breath of fresh air to see who the monster could be. She's able to see the beauty in anyone.
The one person that shows him compassion and tries to understand him reaches him too late. Now that's when he's been rejected by every single person that he looked to for love.
Working on a new play is just a dream come true. Watching Pete wrestle with it and wrestle with what he wants it to be has been just so exciting.
There is a brutality to the story. There is raw wood that's broken. There is what we're calling, I call a spiderweb, which is this sort of shards of glass that is a backdrop for it, that both relate to the experimentation, to lightning, to nature, but also to the ice with which the beginning of the play starts.
I just love that everyone thinks that they know the story and assume that they know what Frankenstein is about. And what I think we have a wonderful opportunity to do is challenge that.
The story of Frankenstein is a very human story of people making large mistakes and large choices.
This could have been an amazing story of redemption for Victor Frankenstein. This could have been how he discovered himself, and instead he rejected it. We survive by fearing the unknown, and sometimes the unknown has so many gifts for you to show you about yourself.
What is really monstrous here? Is it the thing that looks ugly, or is it the thing that acts ugly?
He is the effect of society and how cold we can be as a culture to not embrace the stranger at the door.
I want people to walk away from this story with a stronger understanding of how similar we are as people.
The play is essentially a call to kindness, and it's a caution to all of us that if we are not kind to those around us, that we are in danger of creating a monster of the world.